Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we take a look at TAL Drum by, obviously, TAL. You might know them from the 101 emulation they do, quite a few other amazing and very affordable, even sometimes free synths. They've now released a drum sampler. I think the best way to think of it is a Native Instruments battery replacement. Battery used to be a staple in lots of electronic music, but it hasn't really been updated for a while. It still works, it's still functional, but if you want something that's going to be insured to keep on working, then I think I would focus on something like TAL Drum. The concept is also quite similar to what you might already have in your DAW. So I work with Ableton Live and Cubase. In Cubase there is Groove Agent, and in Ableton Live there are the drum racks. A lot of the functionality overlaps. So if we go to the voice group, for example, so what the process is, you grab the samples and you put them into your pad. At the moment there are 16 pads visible. You can change that to 32, but for the purpose of this demonstration let's keep it on 16. Then if you click on this little fader mixer option here, then it brings up the various parameters for that pad or for that sample. So you have the usual suspects such as volume and pan, the filter and the amp. Also, it does have additional features that you won't find on Groove Agent or drum racks, and that is some analog and timing variability in there. So when you turn these dials up, it just adds a bit of movement to the sound. Filter, you have low pass, high pass and band pass. Then there's a separate high pass filter. You can have up to 4 different layers on the map. So if you add, you can have 4 layers. And then what that is good for is the triggering mode. So if you have round robin cycle or round robin random, cycle will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then random will jump between these 4 elements. So again, that's good for adding a bit of variation in the playback. There is an LFO as well that you can assign to almost all parameters. To check that, we can go into the mod or the matrix here. If we choose LFO, we have unipolar or bipolar modes, and then we can assign that to the usual suspects: volume, pan, cutoff, etc. There are also some inbuilt effects, so lo-fi mode, so you can change the sample rate or bit rate, again to get a bit of lo-fi crunch. Jitter to emulate the old school Akai samplers. You can get a bit of distortion, hard clip and saturation, and then a inbuilt compressor here, which has a very useful visual display there. So you've got attack, ratio, threshold, release. So I find this incredibly useful, especially for something like a percussive element, just so you can see exactly what's happening. I know conceptually how long 79 milliseconds is, or 84 milliseconds, but being able to apply that to the attack of a kick, I think is quite a challenge. Obviously you need to listen for it and find out what sounds best, but having a visual display, seeing exactly where that corresponds to the neck of the kick or the neck of the percussive element is hugely beneficial. Slice is another excellent function that you'll find in Groove Agent and drum racks. You add the drum loop in and then you can slice it to the pads. I'm not showing these in practice because I think you already know what that does. It's not really a novel concept. I'm sure you're aware of sample slicing and applying that to pads. In addition to the LFO, there are the usual envelope and mod envelopes. Again, they're assigned in the mod matrix here. So envelope 1 you can assign to something like volume, for example, and then no surprise of what that does. So far I've mentioned a majority of the functions that are already in Groove Agent or drum racks. There are additional ones that might not be there, such as the compressor or lo-fi effects, etc. However, what really excites me about this plugin, and the one that I will demonstrate, is the live hot swap function. Now, to me it is the most basic of feature requests, from a non-programming point of view, of course. I don't know how hard it is to implement, but obviously not that difficult if TAL have managed to do it. But I cannot understand why Live or Cubase doesn't allow real-time hot swapping of samples. So even when you click the hot swapping function, you still need to press down and enter to select them. Whereas in TAL Drum, let's just play this one now. Psychic Vibrations. This is from my recently released kick drum pack. The bass is from my Dream Drops pack. So let's have a listen to how these sound together. If, however, I want to swap that kick out, as I said in Groove Agent or Drumax, it's a bit of a faff going into each one. Even if you enable the hotspot function, it really just doesn't work as you'd expect. Whereas in TAL Drum, all you do is select Preview, and let's play, and then I will scroll down this list, and you will hear each one of the kicks change in time as it's programmed by MIDI. So let's have a listen. Now to me that is a huge time saver and huge workflow benefit, especially when you're when you're swapping through elements such as kicks or hats, and you've got a library of, it's quite easily to have a library of 100 or 200 samples that you want to preview, and pressing down and enter 200 times gets a bit tedious even after the 4th or 5th one. But here, just scrolling down, and it automatically loads into the bank. But if I don't like it and I want to go back to the original one, unclick Preview, and boom, it goes back to the originally loaded one. The only other sampler that I've known to do this is Nerve by Exfer Records, but that is quite a bit more expensive at $200. This one is $60, and honestly, just for that function alone, I think it's worth it. Plus it does come with all the other benefits that I said. A lot of it's a bit of overlap, so I don't think I would necessarily be paying for those. It is really just for the hot swap function that I think is a no-brainer purchase. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.